like, bro, yeah, she got a kid. Look at his back. Oh my god.
I'm gonna say that.
Yeah, what's up, y'all? Welcome back to another reaction. Today we're gonna be reacting to Thomas Sowell or Sowell.
You're so well.
I don't know how to say his last name. You're gonna correct me in the comments. I already know you are.
Current black culture.
Yeah, on current black culture. I don't know. How do you feel about the current black culture?
I feel like it's.
How do you even define current black culture?
You can't really define it.
Was it rap music?
I don't know, because any kind of culture is gonna be like anything in the United States.
Because I don't feel like collectively black people really have much anything collectively. Like besides like all the dances and you may be seeing and shit on the.
Yeah, that's all. Like when you think of like black culture in the United States, all you think of is like dancing, rappers. There's not too many things that pop up in the head. Yeah, man.
Yeah, if you enjoy these reactions, make sure that like, subscribe, and share, man. We've been
So.
When I grew up in Harlem in the 40s and 50s, I never heard a gunshot.
Well, let me read what you say in your preface. You say, "Let me stay here," and now that these essays do not mean 1, all Southern whites were or are rednecks. 2, all black Americans today or in the past were or are black rednecks. One cannot predict, you write, much less forestall all the clever misinterpretations that others might put on one's words. The most that can be done is to alert honest people to the problem. Black rednecks, who are they?
These would be blacks who came out of the Southern culture and who carried that culture with them north into the urban ghettos, into the ghettos of the South for that matter. And who have not moved out of that culture since. Over the years, both blacks and whites have moved away from that culture. But in the poorest and worst of the ghetto areas, there are lots of people who have not. And these kinds of, it's a culture which didn't do whites any good. And it's certainly not doing blacks any good today. And the tragedy is that people regard this culture as somehow the authentic black culture, and therefore you're not to interfere with it.
You may not fall in love with who you're voting for.
I'm proud to be a bartender. Ain't nothing wrong with that.
I don't feel no ways tired.
I hate you already. There ain't no way I'm being a bartender.
Quite proper.
You learned it under the mountain? Worshipping that owl?
That owl?
And owning all the corporations, and whites were working for them. It would be the other way around.
There was a period, I'm trying to remember now, I believe it was in the mid-70s, when substandard English began to become viewed as a discipline of its own within linguistic studies and so forth. And for all I know, it was all perfectly legitimate that certain speech patterns would be traced back to various regions in Africa and so forth. And this is a language of its own. It has its own validity. But your argument would be, I don't really care what its validity is. It's holding people back. It's preventing them from participating in the wider society. Is that right?
Absolutely. And also, none of these things went back to Africa.
Oh, is that so?
No, you can. Yes, they did not go back to Africa. If you look at the piece, for example, using the word axe for ask and stuff like that, all of that goes back to the South, and it goes back to the parts of Britain from which white Southerners came. So if you trace calling hog entrails chitlins, that was in a certain section of Britain, the section from which whites moved into the South, and they were known as rednecks and crackers in Britain in centuries past, before they ever set foot in the South. So the whole thing is as phony as the $3 bill.
In Intellectuals and Race, you cite an observation by the intelligence expert, IQ scientist James Flynn, that just stopped me cold. After the Second World War, you've got large numbers of American troops remaining in Germany.
The first slaves that were here in the Americas were indentured servants from Britain. It shouldn't be surprising that the culture derives from Britain. To think that, oh, it's a culture from Africa. You weren't thinking about no culture when you were on the bottom of a ship.
They were they're basically brainwashing these black people that they are their tools and to do whatever they want them to do.
Yeah, bro. Culture.
It's like it wasn't that easy. I'm like, they're in like what year was that?
17. That's like the 1700s.
You don't know. They didn't know anything about the outside world. So
especially since they're from.
And so like when these white guys came with guns, they're like, what the fuck?
Not even that. You know, you got them on these ships at the bottom of these ships, taking them to a whole new continent. They have no idea what it is.
Like they don't know where they're going.
And they're usually with people that's not even from the tribe, so they don't speak the same language at all. They don't share the same culture.
On another thing, I was when they were talking about the ask and ask thing.
Yeah.
I remember we like read something about that in like school where we were like watching the TED Talk and she like based her whole life around that. Like they were telling her, like correcting her speech. This was like the modern times. So it's like the 90s or 80s. To that point, I was just saying like I don't think that's being racist because I don't say ask when I say ask. You know what I mean?
Ask.
Yeah. Just correcting that. I don't think that's racist.
I mean, language is bound to change. It just always does. So is there a particular way to keep speaking right of a certain language? I guess. I don't know. It seems pretty informative so far. I don't know how I feel about that sweater though.
Yeah, that's like
that sweater's a little tight. Like,
it's not it, but
that sweater right there.
For that matter, there's still several tens of thousands there today.
James will
And
know.
both black and white
It's the Roger
American
thing.
soldiers had children with
sorry.
German women. It's fully discovered that those children
Pittsburgh
growing
thing.
up in Germany showed no IQ differences at all. The black kids and the white kids, the same. Professor Flynn concluded that the reason was that the offspring of black soldiers in Germany grew up in a nation with no black subculture. Close quote. Which means what? Which means they experienced exactly the same expectations. Is this the thing?
No. The expectations are external. The culture in which they grew up was not the culture in which black kids grew up in America today.
So they had.
There's no gangster rap that was pervasively available in Germany.
So here's what I'm getting. There is something about black subculture in America today that holds African Americans themselves back.
Yes. Because that corrects something.
I don't know. That was out of nowhere too.
But in the time, this mental testing in the First World War turned up, among other things, the fact that whites from various 4 or 5 southern states scored lower on the mental test than blacks from 4 or 5 northern states. And so it really was a question of the subculture that was there, which was a handicapped above. I could go on for days about the social degeneration, but let me give you just one quick example. When I grew up in Harlem in the 40s and 50s, I never heard a gunshot. Now, I'm sure someone fired a gun somewhere in Harlem, but it was not such a pervasive thing that you had to hear it. You know, I have relatives in Washington. I asked them the same question. People in my generation.
Growing up in Washington, D.C.
Yes, and low-income black neighborhoods. Did you ever hear a gunshot when you were growing up? And the answer was no. I have relatives in North Carolina. I asked the same question. No. And now, people in housing projects especially, they put kids, some of them, to bed in bathtubs so that they won't be hit by stray bullets in the night. Now we take it for granted that there's tremendous levels of crime and violence in the black community. That was not always the case. In the 20s, it was very common for white celebrities, including George Gershwin and William Faulkner, to go up to Harlem not only for entertainment places, but to go into private homes of people they knew. And Gershwin played Rhapsody in Blue and this home where Walter White lived. Milton Friedman, when he was a graduate student at Columbia, he and the lady he later married would go dancing at the Savoy Ballroom in Harlem. And he said, we had no fear of being mugged or accosted on the street or anything like that.
I've heard you say, Tom, when you were a boy growing up in Harlem yourself, your own neighborhood felt totally safe to you.
Not totally safe. I wouldn't exaggerate, but there's nothing resembling today. I mean, I did sleep on hot nights. I would sleep out on the fire escape. When I tell people in Harlem that today, they think I'm from another galaxy, you know. But that people slept on the fire escapes in New York and in the public parks in the 30s, all over the city. Because it was not like it was
rats crawling
you
next
could run
to
through a
it.
great number of other things.
Spider flying your mouth.
Raised without two parents present. That was about 22%
I thought that was comedy.
in 1960. One generation later, it was 67%, and it's gone up a little since then as well. And now the rate among whites is higher than it was among blacks in 1960.
I take responsibility.
I take
He
responsibility.
took like that
I
deep pause.
take responsibility.
They don't care
They
at
did it
all.
like it was it's kind of like a joke.
Streets,
Like a
killed in their
joke.
homes.
Like a joke.
These
I'm like, why are you
are
doing
I'm
brothers
gonna
that?
act like I
sisters,
care.
friends,
Got my face, man. You don't care.
It's like a joke.
die.
How do
You could be
define
reading
white?
something. Like, come on.
Those kinds of
You
people
see 'em
who have the
squirm.
kinds of attitudes that are called liberal in the United States, although the word is misused, those people have created an atmosphere in which
What is that noise?
these counterproductive cultures are to be celebrated, perpetuated, and the consequences overlooked. It reminds me of a scene in the Blue Max where this general is encouraging this daredevil pilot to do all kinds of wild stunts, you see, knowing that the guy's going to kill himself if he keeps doing this, and therefore the general will be rid of a political problem. Now, I don't think that the white liberals are doing this deliberately, but I think the net results are the same. They are cheering blacks on and doing things that are absolutely self-destructive.
Get the Amazon app and shop on the go.
Cheering on that victim mentality, man. Keep sucking up to us. You need us to survive, blacks. We hear you. Democrats heard you. We're going to solve all your problems when Joe Biden gets in office. 6 months later, y'all going to be on Twitter talking.
Yeah.
Because ain't nothing changed. Because Kamala Harris, the incarceration incarnate, is the VP. I mean, these are
Incarceration incarnate.
yeah, throwing dudes in jail for blunts they even like it. Like 20 plus years, death row for a blunt.
For real?
For a blunt. Can you imagine spending 60 years of your life for a
Blood?
plant? A plant?
That's ridiculous. I know you. I know that hits you. That hits you out.
They had me in there for weed. I'd be the most violent dude in there. Guard checking my Get me out of here!
But to the point they were saying, to the point they were saying talking about blacks don't have no culture in other countries. That's why you don't see blacks acting like they act like everybody acts the same over in like Germany or the UK.
That's why their countries be so efficient, man.
There's no like separation for real, no the bad. You don't hear a lot of racist things going on in like countries where blacks aren't in the United States.
Oh, thing today. What? Got some holes in this house. Got some
Yeah.
holes in this house.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm scared, man. We got a little sister and shit. Listen to this hot cesspool sewage. What are you talking about? And I'm tired of going on Instagram and you're twerking. Can you draw? Can you do a poem? Can you play your guitar? Can you do anything else but shake your on the internet?
Watch your
I'm
mouth,
tired.
man. Watch your mouth, man. I know.
I'm
We're all tired of this for real.
I'm gonna start bleeping all stuff. YouTube is cracking down. Can't cuss anymore.
we got bleep that out.
I'm gonna bleep it out. Yeah. Don't expect us to be cussing too much more on this channel.
Yeah.
I can't make my money. It's just sad to see. There was a video with Tupac, and he was talking about how dudes they're gonna lose their will to talk about what's really affecting them and what's really going on in their lives. They're all gonna rap off the same stuff, sipping codeine out of a double cup. Just that action in itself is.
I'm like, what happened to just like?
It's the dumbest thing ever. Why are you using a double cup? I don't understand.
One of the things I discovered in the research for my book I'm currently working on is that leaders of groups that are lagging in countries around the world almost invariably have counterproductive policies for them. And it makes perfect sense because insofar as members of lagging groups assimilate into the values and achievements of the larger society, they don't need those leaders. I mean, there's no mystery to me as to why Jesse Jackson says what he does, or Al Sharpton and others, because that benefits them, but it does not benefit the people they lead. And all the incentives are for leaders to lead people into things that don't help the people, but help the leaders.
What, you create an... There would be an example.
You sound like that one dude.
They're teaching.
Gallo. Insurgent movements in general. Insurgency starts off by definition. It has an uphill battle. Now, as the
these topics be so powerful.
If you're going to be a Christian in the Roman Empire, you know, before in the first century, you had a lot of grief to go through. Now, but after Christianity becomes the official religion of the Roman Empire, this is a bonanza, and there's a lot to be done. And so now you will follow policies that are the opposite of what you advocated. You will see that with all kinds of other insurgent movements.
What he said right there, like how he said, like how the Romans, they had their own cultures, but they realized within their own cultures what things were potentially holding them back, and they were able to adopt from other cultures, like specifically the Greek culture. They were able to adopt a lot of that, and
a lot of the religion.
Yeah, I mean,
a lot of the religions are very similar.
No one's saying black folks need to be like white people, but black folks need to stop expecting other people to do the work for us. Man, if you look at those movies back in, like the movies back in the day, you see like what he was talking about, like the black neighborhoods and stuff, like the atmosphere. There was a lot more, like the community seemed to be a lot more working together. People knew each other.
People that were talking about leaving the door unlocked. You can't do that nowadays.
And they say it took a village to raise a child, man. And you had communities like this where everyone was.
There's just too much hatred out there for real.
Yeah, nowadays you got dudes. Oh yeah, Thomas Sowell. Sorry for mispronouncing his name. I like his content.
He got some very good insights.
Yeah, he got some good insight. Let us know if you want to see more of his content down below in the comments. Make sure you hit that like button, subscribe, and share. It's the road to 10K subscribers. But we'll see you next time. Peace.
Peace.